we know that resistance and resistivity of a metallic conductor depends on temperature. This we have already studied in our previous classes, how the resistivity of a conductor, alloy and semiconductor all varies with the temperature, that we have understood by means of even graphical representation also. Now let us once again study the variation of resistivity of a conductor with the temperature. Both resistance and resistivity varies with temperature. This we have already understood. But there is one more way of understanding the variation of resistivity in terms of relaxation time and the density of electron. That means we know that resistivity is given by the formula m divided by n e square into tau. M is nothing but mass of the electron and tau is nothing but relaxation time of the electron, and E is the charge of the electron and n is the density of electron per unit volume. That means number density of electron. Okay. Now, using this equation, let us study now how the resistivity of a metallic conductor varies. In case of metallic conductor, what happens if the temperature is increased? There is a metallic wire or a conductor, say for example copper wire, I consider copper wire. Okay. Now if I heat this, then temperature increases. Okay. Temperature increases on heating. What happens if the temperature increases? What happens to the speed of the electron? Suppose if I write this in this form, if I write the geometrical view of this conductor instead of writing this in the form of circuit symbol. Now we know that as we heat the conductor, then the speed of the free electron increases. As soon as the temperature of the conductor increases, the ions, positive ions, atoms all begins to vibrate more vigorously, and the speed of the free electron known as charge carriers. What are the charge carriers for this metallic conductor? Free electrons are the charge carriers. Thereby, now the electron begins to move with high speed. As a result of this, the relaxation time of the free electron decreases. That means, if temperature is increases on heating, then relaxation time of free electrons decreases. How the relaxation time decreases? We know that relaxation time means the average time interval for the two successive collision of the electron. Suppose if this electron makes one collision here with another electron or with a positive ion, then if T1 is the time taken, now after collision it changes its direction. Again it makes second collision with one more electron. Now the time taken for second collision is T2. Now the relaxation time tau is given by T1 plus T2 divided by 2. So this is nothing but the average time interval taken by the electron for two successive collision. Okay. If this decreases, then according to this relation, look here, resistivity is inversely proportional to relaxation time. So, if tau decreases relaxation time, then resistivity increases. Resistivity increases means what? Conductivity of this conductor decreases. Resistivity increases. This means conductivity decreases. Okay. So this is what which happens in case of metallic conductor. So increase the temperature, thereby relaxation time is going to decrease. That means time interval for two successive collision of the electron, that will come down because of increase in speed. If the speed is low or small, then relaxation time is going to increase. Since the electron moves fast inside the metallic conductor, it moves fast and it collides with positive ion and also with other electron. Because it is moving very fast, it moves fast like this, in different direction it moves with high speed, thereby relaxation time decreases. So if tau decreases, naturally resistivity has to increase. If resistivity increases, then conductivity decreases. Conductivity decreases means what? The flow of current is not so easy. So current flow when the conductor is heated up to high temperature is not so easy, flow of current decreases. That's the meaning of this. Now we must look into one more factor here, that is density of electron. If temperature is increased, we know that mass of the electron is not going to change, that remains constant. Charge of the electron also remains constant. Only thing is we must observe these two terms, density of electron, relaxation time. We understood about relaxation time. Then what about the number density of electron? See, number density of electron is not going to increase, that remains to be as it is. In 1 meter cube volume of the conductor, suppose if I consider this as 1 meter cube space inside the conductor, then in this the number of free electron that's present remains constant. It's not going to increase if the temperature is increased. Therefore, here resistivity of metallic conductor is not going to depend on this N. It is independent of N. Even though you increase temperature, N remains constant, never changes, but only relaxation time changes. Now let us see what happens to the resistivity of a semiconductor when temperature is increased. Once again, we shall consider the equation that resistivity is equal to M divided by N E square tau. We know that on increasing the temperature of either a conductor or a semiconductor, only two physical quantities are going to change. One is relaxation time and another one is the density of electron. So this also changes and even this, but these two remains constant even after increasing the temperature, because this is mass of the electron and this is the charge of the electron. So no change in these two parameters. In case of semiconductor, suppose if I consider a semiconductor like silicon or even a germanium. So this is a piece of silicon crystal. We know that in case of semiconductor, the charge carriers are both holes and electrons. Electrons are negatively charged, holes are assumed to be positively charged. If you increase the temperature, as temperature is increased, what happens to the number density of electron? Then N increases. This means more number of charge carriers, more electrons are liberated. in the silicon atom of this semiconductor. See, this is semiconductor. So, more electrons and as well as holes. What are these? These are nothing but holes which are like positive charges, and these are nothing but electrons. So, both these charge carriers are released in large quantity if we increase the temperature of the semiconductor like silicon or germanium. Okay. Now, as N increases, then according to the relation, what is the relation here? Resistivity is inversely proportional to N. Okay. As N increases, then according to this relation, resistivity, this is nothing but resistivity should decrease. The resistivity decreases. Resistivity decreases means conductivity is large, because we know that conductivity and resistivity are reciprocal of each other. What is conductivity? Reciprocal of resistivity. So, if this resistivity, that means opposition for the flow of current, decreases, it means that conductivity is increasing. That means more and more current can flow through the semiconductor. That is the meaning of increase in conductivity. So, this is one aspect with respect to this N. Okay. Let us consider the second one. Here also we know that resistivity is inversely proportional to relaxation time. As temperature is increased, what happens to the relaxation time? Then relaxation time decreases. If relaxation time decreases, then what happens to the resistivity? Then resistivity increases. Resistivity increases. But remember, increase of resistivity because of increase in temperature is small or low when compared to decrease of resistivity due to increase of temperature. What I want to say means, on increasing the temperature, here resistivity is going to decrease with respect to this N. Resistivity decreases with respect to N. Here resistivity increases with respect to tau, but increase of resistivity is in small quantity when compared to decrease of resistivity. So, decrease of resistivity is larger than the increase of resistivity. So, that is why in case of semiconductor, we do not consider the increase of resistivity due to relaxation time too much. So, only we consider the decrease of resistivity with respect to electron density, because with respect to N, this is going to change in large quantity when compared to this relaxation time. So, overall in semiconductor, what we do means, by ignoring the increase of resistivity with respect to relaxation time, we consider in large quantity the decrease of resistivity with respect to temperature. So, if I consider both conductor and as well as semiconductor, so we can put it in the simplest form like this. In case of conductor, as temperature increases, relaxation time decreases, resistivity increases, thereby conductivity decreases. In case of semiconductor, what happens? As temperature is increased, then relaxation time decreases. Okay, resistivity increases. Similarly, in the same case, as temperature is increased, then resistivity, the number of electrons per unit volume, that means electron density increases. If electron density increases, then resistivity is going to decrease. So what is more effective in case of semiconductor means decrease of resistivity is more effective than the increase of resistivity. Increase of resistivity is small when compared to decrease of resistivity. So thereby here what happens means conductivity increases. So this is what we can understand how the conductor and semiconductor resistivity varies with the temperature. We know that the resistivity of a conductor depends directly on the temperature. Now let us define one terminology known as temperature coefficient of resistivity. Not only resistivity, temperature coefficient of resistivity. Let us first explain this, then at the end we define what is meant by temperature coefficient of resistivity. Now I consider a conductor, means a metallic wire, maybe a copper wire, aluminum wire, whatever may be the nature of the metal. Let its temperature, initial temperature be T0. At this temperature, let its resistivity be ρ0. Say for example, I consider the temperature as T0 as equal to 273 Kelvin, which corresponds to how much? 0 degrees Celsius. 0 degrees Celsius corresponds to 273 Kelvin, this we know very well. Now what I do means, I heat this conductor, let us heat this conductor and increase its temperature. I increase the temperature by only 1 degree Celsius. Of course, we can increase the temperature to any value. For the sake of defining temperature coefficient of resistivity, I increase the temperature only by 1 degree Celsius. 1 degree Celsius corresponds to 274 Kelvin. So 274 Kelvin. So this is equal to 1 degree Celsius, and let us consider this temperature as T. How do we get this conversion value? There is one simple formula, T equal to T plus 273, whereas small t indicates the temperature in degree Celsius, whereas capital T represents the temperature in Kelvin. 0 means 0 plus 273, 273. 1 degree means 1 plus 273, 274 Kelvin. Now it is found that on increasing the temperature of this conductor, resistivity also changes. Let us write its resistivity as rho of T at this temperature. So this is nothing but a conductor. Now what I do means, I consider now the increase in resistivity or change in resistivity. Increase or rise in resistivity. Rise in resistivity is given by rho of T minus rho naught, because rho of T is greater than rho naught. We know that as temperature increases, resistivity increases. Therefore, at higher temperature, resistivity will be large when compared to lower temperature. Then, what is fractional change in resistivity? This is only rise in resistivity. Fractional change or fractional rise in resistivity. Fractional rise or change in resistivity is given by rise in resistivity rho of T minus rho naught divided by rho naught. So this is the fraction, numerator by denominator, it is in the form of fraction. Rise in resistivity divided by resistivity at 0 degree Celsius. This entire ratio is nothing but fractional rise in resistivity. Now what is rise in temperature? Rise in temperature is given by T minus T naught. How much the temperature rises by heating the conductor. Now I consider like this, ratio of fractional rise in resistivity, fractional rise in resistivity divided by, I am considering the ratio, so divided by rise in temperature, rise in temperature. This ratio, fractional rise in resistivity divided by rise in temperature, or per degree rise of temperature, we can also say like this, rise in temperature or per degree rise of temperature, rise of temperature. This ratio is nothing but called as temperature coefficient of resistivity, represented by the symbol alpha. So let us write this complete mathematical form. Fractional rise in resistivity means, fractional rise in resistivity is nothing but rho of T minus rho of naught divided by rho naught, whole thing divided by rise in temperature, that is T minus T naught. Okay. Now this is nothing but equal to, now rho of T minus rho naught divided by rho naught into T minus T naught. So this is nothing but the expression for the temperature coefficient of resistivity of the material of a conductor. So T naught equal to 273 Kelvin or 0 degree Celsius is usually considered as reference temperature. Reference temperature means need not consider always 0 degree Celsius. I can start the initial temperature if I mind with 300 Kelvin, means 27 degree Celsius. This 27 degree Celsius itself can be taken as initial temperature T naught. Now this becomes the reference temperature. Initial lower temperature, any temperature can be considered as reference temperature. Okay, and this is certainly an higher temperature, say for example 310 Kelvin. 310 Kelvin means which is about 37 degree Celsius. So remember here T naught is the reference temperature and T is bit higher temperature. So if you know these two temperature and their corresponding resistivity, then what is temperature coefficient of the material of the conductor, that can be found out from this equation. Suppose if there is a conductor, any conductor, and if its temperature is T Kelvin, at this temperature what is its resistivity? At any given temperature, what is its resistivity means, it can be found out by making use of this equation itself. If we cross multiply and if we simplify this, then resistivity of this conductor at the given temperature T is given by rho of T is equal to rho naught into 1 plus alpha T minus T naught. So if you cross multiply and simplify, then we get this equation. So if the conductor is at a temperature, let us say 27 degrees Celsius, what is its resistivity? If I want to find, I can make use of this equation. Or if the conductor is at 310 Kelvin, then what is its resistivity at this temperature? That can be found out by making use of this equation, provided the initial lower temperature known as reference temperature should be known. If reference temperature and resistivity corresponding to this temperature, if its resistivity is known, then the temperature coefficient of material of the conductor at any given temperature can be found out by making use of this equation. Suppose if you consider conductor and as well as semiconductor, remember one point, for conductor, for metallic conductor, temperature coefficient alpha is always positive value, whereas for semiconductor, temperature coefficient alpha is negative. Okay, so here in case of semiconductor, we know that resistivity decreases exponentially with the temperature, whereas in case of metallic conductor, resistivity increases both linearly and non-linearly with the increase of temperature. That is why for conductor the temperature coefficient is positive, whereas for semiconductor the temperature coefficient is negative. We know that a battery is a combination of cells, but how do you combine the cells? Remember, to obtain a battery, cells can be connected either in series or in parallel. Two or more than two cells connected either in a series manner or in a parallel manner always constitutes a battery. Or else we can connect the given number of cells both in series and parallel together, that means in a mixed format. Even then it forms a battery. So overall a battery can be obtained by connecting the given number of cells, that means any number of cells either in series or in parallel or both in series and parallel. Now let us study the grouping of cells or the combination of cells in series and as well as in parallel, as we already studied the grouping of capacitors and resistors both in series and parallel combination. Cells in series. I consider two cells. This is one cell, this is another cell. The two cells are said to be connected in series when? The two cells are said to be connected in series if and only if the negative terminal of one cell is connected to positive terminal of other cell. Okay. So one cell negative terminal should be connected to one cell, one cell negative terminal should be connected to the positive terminal of other cell. If I mind, I can connect one more cell. How? Connect negative to positive of third cell, and so on. All that we need to do is negative, positive, negative, positive. If we do the connection like this, then the cells are said to be in series. I restrict myself only to two cells. The two cells are said to be connected between the 2 points A and C. This is point B where two cells are connected with negative and positive terminal. Let the EMF of the first cell be E1 and internal resistance be R1. Likewise, I consider the second cell EMF as E2 whose internal resistance is R2. Though the EMF and internal resistance of both the cells are different, current coming out of both the cells are same. Current coming out of the second cell, if it is I, then the current coming out of the first cell is once again equal to I itself. Okay. So current remains to be same, whereas potential difference across first cell and also across second cell, it is different. What the potential difference across first cell means? I consider the potential difference across first cell as VAB. What the potential difference across second cell means? I consider the potential difference across second cell as VBC. Then what is the total potential difference across A and C? The total potential difference across A and C is VAC. VAC is equal to VAB plus VBC. Okay. So cells are said to be connected in series when if negative terminal of one cell is connected to positive terminal of other cell. Okay. Then cells are said to be connected in series. Now let us derive the expression. For what actually we have to derive the expression? We have to derive the expression for the equivalent EMF, that means total EMF of this series combination or of this battery. And also we have to derive the expression for the equivalent internal resistance. So two relations we have to derive, one for equivalent EMF and other for the equivalent internal resistance for this series combination. We know very well that the terminal potential difference is given by V equal to, we know that terminal potential difference is given by V equal to E minus I into R. Now, using this equation, first I find the potential difference across the first cell. That means between positive and negative terminal of first cell. What is that potential difference? VAB. So, potential difference across first cell is given by VAB. Use this equation E. What is the EMF of first cell? E1 minus what is the current coming out of the second cell of first cell? It is I. What is its internal resistance? R1. This is the potential difference across the first cell. Similarly, what is the potential difference across second cell? Potential difference across second cell. Potential difference across second cell is given by VBC. Look here, VBC equal to same equation I use. E, second cell EMF is E2, current remains to be same, whereas its internal resistance is R2. What is total potential difference across AC? Total potential difference across AC is VAC equal to, look here, VA minus VC I write. See, this can also be written like this. VAB can also be written as VA minus VB. Remember, similarly, VBC can also be written as equal to VB minus VC. VBC equal to E2 minus IR2, which is equal to VB minus VC. VAB is equal to E1 minus IR1 equal to VA minus VB. So, this VAC can be written as VA minus VC. What I do means, I add and subtract VB to this equation. Look here, VA, okay. I subtract VB and I add VB. Add and subtract. If minus and plus VB cancels, then we get the same equation. So, minus VC is as it is. So, these are the two terms in which I included to this. Now, I group this VA minus VB as one group, these two as one group, and then plus is there, remove plus. Then what I do means, I group these two together, VB minus VC. So, this is equal to, now what do we get? VA minus VB. VA minus VB is equal to E1 minus I into R1 plus, what is VB minus VC? VB minus VC is E2 minus I into R2. I group EMF terms together and IR terms together. So, E1 plus E2, E1 plus E2, I make this as one term, then minus is there, here also minus is there, therefore I can remove minus as a common factor. Then if I remove minus, then we get I into R1, then I remove the minus, then plus I into R2. Once again what I do means, I remove I as a common factor. So, what do I get now? I get like this, VAC is equal to, okay, VAC equal to E1 plus E2 minus I into R1 plus R2. Okay. Now, instead of connecting two cells between A and C, I connect only one cell between A and C. Okay. Here, A and C, between A and C, I connect one cell whose EMF is E equivalent and whose internal resistance is R equivalent. For this cell, which is considered as equivalent cell, I consider this cell as equivalent cell because this single cell is equivalent to these two cells. Then again, using this equation, what is the terminal potential difference across this equivalent cell? It is VAC. Okay. So, I can write like this now. VAC is equal to, using this equation for this equivalent cell, EMF E. In place of E, what is there? E equivalent minus the current is same. Current is I. In place of I write I as it is. In place of R, I write R equivalent. Okay. Now, let us call this as equation 1 and this as equation 2. Now, you compare equation 1 with equation 2. If you compare equation 1 with equation 2, what do we get now? Let us see. Comparing 1 and 2. 1 and 2. Look here. VAC is there. Okay, left hand side same. Now, right hand side now it becomes E equivalent minus I into R equivalent is equal to this one. E1 plus E2 minus I into R1 plus R2. Now, in place of E equivalent, what is there? E1 plus E2. Therefore, E equivalent is equal to E1 plus E2. Similarly, in place of I into R equivalent, what is there? I into R1 plus R2. So, I can compare this with this as I compared this with this already. Because equal sign is there, therefore, comparison becomes easy now. So, I into R equivalent is equal to I into R1 plus R2. I and I gets cancelled. So, if I and I gets cancelled, what is left now? R equivalent is equal to R1 plus R2. So, this is the expression for the equivalent internal resistance of the series combination, and this is the expression for the equivalent EMF of the series combination. So, equivalent EMF is equal to sum of individual EMFs. Equivalent internal resistance is equal to sum of individual internal resistances. Suppose if instead of connecting two cells, if n number of cells are connected in series, let us consider now the n number of cells. Okay? Then what will be the equivalent EMF and equivalent internal resistance? Let us see to it like this. So, this is the nth cell of EMF En and internal resistance Rn. Then, for this n number of cells put together in series, what is the equivalent EMF? Means E equivalent is equal to E1 plus E2 plus dash 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 plus En. Similarly, what is the equivalent internal resistance of this n number of cells? Means R equivalent is equal to R1 plus R2 plus dash 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 plus Rn. So, these are the two equations, one for equivalent EMF and the other for equivalent internal resistance when n number of cells are connected in series. Now, let us study cells in parallel. Let us connect now the given number of cells in parallel combination, and once again shall derive the expression for equivalent EMF and equivalent internal resistance. These are the two cells, one of EMF E1 and internal resistance R1, EMF E2, internal resistance R2. So, positive terminal, negative terminal, positive terminal, negative terminal. I connect positive terminal together to one common point. Let us call this common point as B1. Similarly, I connect negative terminal to another common point. Let us call this point as B2. Okay. Now, cells are said to be connected in parallel if positive terminals of all the cells are connected to one common point and negative terminals connected to another common point. Positive terminals are connected to one common point and negative terminal to another common point. Okay. In case of parallel, what is same across each cell means potential difference across each cell is same. Let V be the potential difference. That means potential difference between the two terminals of the cell known as terminal potential difference, that remains to be same. Suppose between the two terminals, if the terminal potential difference is 3 volt, again between these two terminals of the second cell also the terminal potential difference remains to be at 3 volt. Across the first cell 3 volt is the potential difference, across the second cell 3 volt is the potential difference. Need not be 3 volt, it is simply a numerical value. So, to show that across each cell potential difference remains to be same, but current coming out of the first cell is I1, current coming out of the second cell is I2. In case of series, current coming out of each cell is same, whereas potential difference across each cell is different. Whereas in parallel, current coming out of each cell is different, whereas potential difference across each cell is same. You remember this difference between series and parallel combination of the cells. Now, let us consider the potential difference across the first cell. Potential difference across first cell. I call this potential difference across first cell as V, which can also be written as VB1 and VB2. Look here, VB1 and B2 can also write like this, or this can also be written as VB1 minus VB2. In this way also we can write. I use the equation. What is that equation? We know the equation already. We know that V equal to E minus I into R, terminal potential difference across the two terminals. Now let us write for the first cell potential difference is V. According to this equation, it is nothing but equal to E1 minus I1 into R1. Okay. Similarly, potential difference across second cell is given by same V equal to, look here, using this equation it is E2 minus I2 into R2. Across first cell also it is V, across second cell terminals also it is equal to V. Now, all that we need to do is derive the expression for the equivalent EMF and also for equivalent internal resistance. We know that at point B1, what is the current coming? I1, and from the second cell it is I2. I1 and I2 reaches the point B1 and together both I1 and I2 together flows as I. That means current flowing into B1 or I1 and I2, current flowing out of B1 is I. That means I can be taken as equal to sum of I1 and I2. So therefore, I is equal to I1 plus I2. Now, I find the value of I1 and I2 from these two equations. Then I substitute for this. Let us call this as equation 1. Now look into this equation. From this equation, what's the value of I1? If I want to find the value of I1, look here, all that I do is I shift I1 into R1 to this side and V to this side. Then what do I get by shifting I1 R1 to left hand side? So we get that as minus will become plus, minus I1 R1 will become plus, E1 remains there only, then minus I shifting V to this side. So plus V becomes minus V. So what is I1 now? I1 equal to E1 minus V divided by R1. Similarly, from this equation again you shift this term to this side and this term to this side. So by shifting that, again if you follow the same procedure, what do we get now? Similarly, I2 is equal to E2 minus V divided by R2. So substitute the value of I1 and I2 in the equation 1. Therefore, equation 1 becomes now, simply I substitute for I1 and I2. I remains as it is. For I1, what I can substitute? E1 minus V divided by R1. Then for I2, plus is there, retain plus as it is. Then for I2, what's the value of I2? E2 minus V divided by R2. Let us simplify this. I split this as E1 by R1 minus V by R1. Okay, plus similarly split this E2 by R2 minus V by R2. All that I am going to do now is I group potential difference together and EMF together. I make potential different terms as one factor, EMF terms as another factor. So therefore, here E1 by R1, okay, plus E2 by R2. See what I have done, this one and this one, these two are grouped together. Now from these two, let us mark like this, star mark. These two I am going to group together, but minus sign is there. For both I remove minus outside. Then also V is there as a common. I can remove V also as a common. So if I remove minus V, what is left now? 1 over R1 is left, plus again if I remove minus sign, what is left now? 1 over R2 is left. Okay. So this forms one group and this is another group. What is there on left hand side? As usually I is carried. Now at this stage what I do is I take the LCM for this and also for this. If I take the LCM now, what is the LCM now? R1 R2. Then it becomes now E1 into R2 plus E2 into R1. I simplified this by taking LCM. Similarly, minus V. Once again, what is the LCM here? R1 into R2. 1 into R2 is R2 plus 1 into R1 is R1. Okay. So once again on left hand side I is there. Now I shift this potential difference term to left hand side and I shift this current to right hand side. If I do so, now what do we get now? Let us see this. This on coming to left hand side becomes positive, minus is there, it becomes positive. V into R1 plus R2 divided by R1 R2, okay, equal to, this remains as it is, only when I goes to that side it becomes negative. E1 R2, okay, plus E2 R1 divided by R1 R2 and plus I will become minus I. Now I take the LCM on right hand side and I simplify this first. E1 R2 plus E2 R1, what the LCM now? LCM is R1 into R2. So R1 into R2 into I, that means minus I into R1 into R2. So what is there on this side? On this side we have now V into R1 plus R2 divided by R1 into R2. Remember R1 R2 gets cancelled. If I continue from this step here, next step I can write here like this. I retain V here itself, I shift this to the right hand side so that it becomes V equal to 1 over R1 plus R2. Then this has gone to the denominator of the right hand side. What is there here on right hand side? As usually we have E1 R2 plus E2 R1 minus I into R1 into R2. Okay. Let us now divide this by this and also this by this independently. So separately we multiply this with 1 over R1 plus R2 and again we multiply this with 1 over R1 and R2. If so, then what will be the step in which we get now? E1 R2 plus E2 R1 divided by R1 plus R2 minus I into R1 R2 divided by R1 plus R2. See, what we have done means we have made EMF term as one group and current and internal resistance as another group. So once again here, instead of connecting two cells in parallel between B1 and B2, I connect only one cell between B1 and B2. Okay. So let the EMF of this cell be E equivalent and internal resistance of this cell be R equivalent. What is the current that flows from B2 to B1? It is nothing but I. The total current is I and the total potential difference between B1 and B2 is V. Total current that comes out of this equivalent cell is also equal to I. As we have seen already in the combination, total current is I, which is equal to sum of I1 and I2. So here this is nothing but equivalent cell of parallel combination. Again, using the equation, what is the equation, basic equation which we used at the beginning? Terminal potential difference V equal to E minus I into R. Using this equation, that means I apply this equation to this equivalent cell, so that what do we get now? Potential difference between B1 and B2 is V, which is equal to current. What is the main current? Main current is I. Okay, sorry, EMF. EMF is E equivalent. In place of E, I write equivalent because I am considering equivalent cell, minus current is I. I and V are same, whereas internal resistance and EMF are different. I into R equivalent. So this is one equation. Let us call this as equation 1. And we obtain this equation by considering two cells independently. And we write this equation by considering only one cell. This one cell is equivalent to these two cells. Let's call this as equation 2. If I compare 1 and 2, look here, on comparing 1 and 2, what do I get now? Comparing 1 and 2, left hand side V and V are there. So in place of E equivalent, what I can write? I can write E equivalent is equal to E1 R2 plus E2 R1 divided by R1 plus R2. Okay. On comparing, since left hand side of both are same, left hand side V is there. Here left hand side V is there. Therefore, right hand side of 1 must be equal to right hand side of equation 2. Right hand side of 1 must be equal to 2 means what? This term should be equal to this and the center term should be equal to this. That's the meaning. That is the purpose of comparing the equation 1 with equation 2. Then, similarly, what do we get for this? I into R equivalent. This should be equal to this, which is I into R1 R2 divided by R1 plus R2. Remember, I and I gets cancelled. So if these two get cancelled, that means I can remove this. So that what do we get for equivalent internal resistance? This is the expression. So these are the two expressions for the equivalent EMF and equivalent internal resistance when two cells are connected together in parallel. Next, what I do means I divide one by other, that means E equivalent by R equivalent. So if I do so, then we get one more equation. Let us find out that equation also. E equivalent divided by R equivalent. Okay. So this is equal to now E1 R2 plus E2 R1 divided by R1 plus R2, whole thing divided by R equivalent. What is R equivalent? R1 R2 divided by R1 plus R2. So look here, these two terms get cancelled. Denominator of the numerator and denominator of the denominator get cancelled. Then what is left? E1 R2 plus E2 R1 divided by R1 R2. Again I divide this separately by this and also this by this. Then it will be E1 R2 divided by R1 R2 plus E2 R1 divided by R1 R2. R2 R2 get cancelled, then it is nothing but E1 by R1. Then here R1 and R1 get cancelled, then it is nothing but E2 by R2. So this is the expression for the ratio of equivalent EMF to equivalent internal resistance in case of parallel combination of cells. Suppose instead of two cells, if n number of cells are connected together, n means maybe 10 cells or maybe 15 cells or maybe 20 cells, like this, whatever may be. Then let us consider this as nth cell of internal resistance Rn and EMF En. Then for that combination consisting of n number of cells, what will be this equation now? For n cells, then this equation is E equivalent divided by R equivalent is equal to E1 by R1 plus E2 by R2 plus dash 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 plus En by Rn. Okay. Remember, this equation can also be written in another form for n number of cells. When you put n number of cells together, then this equation can be rewritten as 1 over R equivalent is equal to 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2. This is only for two cells, but for n number of cells, then what I can write means 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2 plus dash 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 plus 1 over Rn. Okay. So remember the difference of these two equations with these two. So this is the equivalent EMF in terms of EMF and internal resistance of individual cells. This is equivalent internal resistance only in terms of internal resistances, and this is the ratio of these two. Ratio of these two is this. Understand? So these are the different equations for the parallel combination of cells. Okay, thank you.